Sponsored by Wing Technologies, one of the highest button counts in the industry. We're going to look at the following. Trim, as it is at the moment, how to change between the seats, setting our controls up. Then we're going to fly the aircraft from the rear seat and ask George AI to fire weapons from the front seat. Then we're going to ask George AI to fly the aircraft from the rear seat, and we are going to fire the weapons ourselves from the front seat. Sound confusing? Not at all. I should specify at this point as well that this is a dummies guide just to get you started. We're not going to go into the funking details, just the basics. Trim. I'm just keeping it super simple and using that one button there. Force, trim, hold mode, switch, up. If I look at the control display at the top left of the screen, there's my cyclic, there's my rudder or anti-torque pedals. If I were to push the button that I showed you with the stick and the pedals in a certain position, look what happens. The red cross move and the default position moves to where my controls were. Now if I let go of my control stick and my rudder pedals, they go back to there. That's how the force, trim, hold works at the moment. If I wanted to reset that back to completely normal, I would put the pedals and the stick into that configuration there, press the button, and it puts it back there. So let's show that in action quickly. I'm going to take off. I am rather heavy, so I've just got to be a little bit careful. What you'll find, of course, is that when you're flying at a certain attitude, at a certain speed and whatnot, you will need to hold the stick and the rudder in a certain position, obviously, and that gets very fatiguing after a while. So what I can do is press the retrim there, and it's now holding the stick in that position for you. Or you can then essentially let go of the stick and let go of the rudder pedals, and it's re-neutralised in that position. And then if we're going to go slower and there's a change of trim needed, like there, press it again, and then let go of the stick, let go of the rudder, and it'll hold in that position. So that's how we're doing the trim at the moment, the same way we do it in the UH-1 UE. Next, let's look at today's controls. So, adjust controls. We'll want to be able to control George AI from either the front or the rear seat. Both of those seats will access George AI through this menu here. 5 controls, which we do need. Hide, up, down, left and right. Make sure you bind all of those to something on your HOTAS. I'm going to assume that your pilot is already set up, and we've covered that in the previous video. Next, we're going to do the CPG, co-pilot gunner front seater. First, I suggest to have your access control set up. You can fly the aircraft from either seat. So I came in here and I set my cyclic, pitch and roll, my collective, my rudder, my wheel brakes and my zoom view. And finally, for our basic guide, we're going to need the TEDAC. So I've gone into categories. I'm going down here to TEDAC under CPG. The absolute minimum controls I would suggest at the moment are the following. LHG, left hand grip, TADS, field of view switch. And we've got 4 of them. Medium view, narrow view, wide view, or super zoomed in view. So set that on a 4-way hat somewhere on your HOTAS. A lot of people are saying at the moment, the TEDAC, these stuff that we're looking at here, can be set to something like a PlayStation controller. Next one we want is left-hand grip, weapons, action switch, WAS. Again, 4 commands. A, air-to-air, G, gun, M, missile, R, rocket. It's a similar command to what we have in the rear seat as the pilot. Also, we'll need the left-hand grip, weapons, trigger switch, first detent and a second detent. Next, we'll need the right-hand grip, laser tracker mode, automatic, manual, or off. We'll need the right-hand grip, trigger, first detent and second detent. We'll need the right-hand grip, manual tracker switch, up, down, left and right, or you could do them as an axis, but I've just to keep it simple done up, down, left to right. We'll need the right-hand grip, sight select switch. There are 4 hub commands here, you may as well just bind them all. Fire control radar, HMD, link and TADS. HMD and TADS are working at the moment. You'll also need your right-hand grip, sight slave button, or you'll probably need that. That's the minimum we'll consider that you'll need to do what we're going to do today. Next, I want to show that we can change seats in single player and take control of the aircraft in terms of flight controls from both seats. So, standard, you will be put in the rear seat, the pilot's position, you will have control of the aircraft. If we press the 2 key on the keyboard, we'll go through to the co-pilot or gunner's position. We do not have control of the aircraft. If you want control of the aircraft, press C, Charlie button, ping, you now have control of the aircraft. Press it again, you no longer have control of the aircraft. And then if we want to go back to the rear seat, press 1. Next, let's get into the good stuff. First, we're going to take off as the pilot in the rear seat. We're going to find some bad guys, and then we're going to ask George AI in the front seat to shoot some Hellfires and some guns at them. So, off we go. We're a little bit heavy, so it will take a short while to get to altitude. Okay, I've been told on the coast, on the beach there, are some bad guys. What I would do now is put it into a manual hover and maintain that hover, but I'm going to cheat and put it on pause. Next, we need to arm our weapon system. Next, we need to bring up the George overlay, left control and Victor, and you can see it down here. First, let's sort out the ROE, rules of engagement. As yellow text here, it means that he's set to lock onto the target, but I will be able to actually fire the weapon myself, and he will not be able to do it. If, in this current configuration, I press, just a quick reminder, George AI helper, up, down, left, right, we've also got hide here. If we were to press and hold, up, watch what happens, it goes green. He has now got control of locking the weapon and firing when he wants. So that's ROE of George in the front seat. Next, I'm going to cycle the weapons with left. Hellfire, I could also press it again, back to gun. Go. Hellfire. A quick look at the text here. Hellfire, we've obviously got a Hellfire missile selected. LOBL, lock on before launch. This means that the type of Hellfire we're using needs to find a laser source before being launched. We could change that to lock on after launch. We would use that if we were firing on someone else's laser, for instance. We've got a direct trajectory here, which can't be changed at the moment as far as I'm aware. And here is the actual type of Hellfire that we're firing. Currently, the TADS being controlled by George is unslaved, and we can see that further in a second. The next thing I actually need to do is to have George look at an area where I want him to look. He can then search for targets, and we can decide which target we want to attack. So if I were to zoom in, obviously with my eye hands and my track AR in this case, I will place my cross roughly over that target there, and using the George interface up, short press, you can see that the dotted cross has moved onto that area. He's slaved the system onto that area there and then unslaved. And because there are a number of targets around that area, he's presented me with a list of targets on the left here. Using again the George interface system, I can go up or down the list as I see fit. Once I've found the one that I want to engage, I press interface right, and boom boom ensues. So lots of words there, actually really simple in just a couple of button presses. Let's try that again. I'm going to put my crosshair over the area I want to engage. I'm going to press up on the interface menu. He's going to look, he's going to present me with some targets at the bottom left of the screen. I'm going to cycle up and down that with up and down on the interface, find the one I want to blow up, and press right on the interface menu. And you can just sit here and do that 16 times if you've got 16 missiles. And if we wanted to manually check what George is firing at in our right MFD here, we can go to VID, ping, we can go to TADS, and that is the screen that George is using to do his targeting at the moment. Next, I would like George to engage with the gun. It works almost exactly the same. I'm going to unpause, whee, and I need to fly closer obviously because the gun can't fire from miles away. Come on, get your grip. Right, what I'm going to do next is choose his weapon with AI interface menu left once. He's now got the gun selected.
So your effective firing range is 1,500 meters.
I'm now going to put my IHADS crosshair there. I'm going to AI interface menu up, short. He's presented a list of targets down at the bottom left of the screen. I'm going to cycle that with my up and down. I'm going to choose that one. And he will engage it with the gun, which should be pretty cool. That's him doing it. I'm not doing that at all. Go George. Oh, that's the best it's got, I guess. Okay, that was using...
You can also change your burst on that.
Would I do that? How would I do that?
That's short, right short.
Roger, right short. There we go, you can see the burst being changed there. 50, 100, unlimited. Very good, very good. Right, we're going to reset now, and having us, the player, in the front seat, and having George AI fly the plane from the rear seat. And then we'll move on to weapons after that. So, first of all, just to show that we can swap seats whenever we like pretty much, I'm going to start in the rear seat, fly the plane. I just want to get it roughly in position. You know what? That'll probably do there. So even though we're airborne, I can now switch over to the front seat. Watch this. I'm going to press 2. I'm no longer in control. George AI has automatically controlled the rear, and he will do what he sees fit at this point. It looks like he thought I was trying to put it in a hover, which I was, and he's put it in a hover. If I was going fast in a straight line forward, then he'll continue going fast in a straight line forward. Next, we show that we can control him from this front seat with left control and Victor again. And this is his control panel here. Here is the indicated airspeed in knots that I want him to move at, currently 0. The way it works is I give him a commanded number in here, and he tries to achieve it. Here is the commanded magnetic heading, the commanded altitude in feet, our compass rose, our heading bug, aircraft heading there, current mode here, which is very important. There are 4 different modes that we'll look at. First, to show how to change through the modes, we use AI interface left short. We're currently in flight. We could go to hover, we could go to combat, or we could go to CMWS. Flight is for flight, hover is obviously for hover, combat is for combat. I still haven't figured out CMWS. Could you give me your brief understanding of it, RC?
Yes, CMWS basically gives you functionality to control some of the options for the CMWS system. So you can only really do 2 things, which is toggle to arm and safe on your CMWS, or auto bypass.
So why don't we start with hover. AI interface up short to increase altitude by 10. I'm increasing the commanded altitude, and then he will try and match that. Or I can bring it back down with down. Allows you to step up and down pretty easily. I can translate left, right, forwards or backwards by pressing long presses. So long press of right, he'll go right. Release it, he'll stop. Up, long, and hold, we'll move forward. Release, he'll put it back into hover. That's how to translate. Finally, if I want him to turn to a heading that I am looking at, I can move my head here. AI interface right short press, and I'll turn to that heading. So I'm changing that commanded heading there. And I want to put it back where the baddies are. Right short press. Back he goes. Next, let's look at flight mode. So I'm going to go AI interface left. Again. Now we're in flight mode. Altitude is now done by pushing and holding up or down. And you can see I'm adjusting the commanded altitude by pushing and holding up or down. I can also change my forward speed by short presses of up and down. So, short press up, 40 knots, 70 knots, 90 knots. He will then try to achieve that if he possibly can. And then let's put that to 0. That's going to put him in a hover, 490 feet, at a heading of 0, 1, 2. Next, I can push and hold left or right to change the heading bug, which is the, well, I'll show you what it is. So push and hold right. You can see on the compass rose, the bug, which is where I want to head, is moving around, and let go. Speed it up, and you can see he'll try and achieve that. Just another way of turning around. And I'm going to go left now, roughly where the baddies were. They were somewhere over there, weren't they? Ping. Speed it up. And there he goes. Very quickly, combat. So we're going to switch over to combat menu. With long pushes or left or right, it will turn us 90 degrees in that direction. So long push right. Right. Long push left. So it just changes the commanded heading. by 90 degrees. So if I were to push and hold aft or down, it'll spin us around 180 degrees. If I were to press short press up, it will turn us to the currently selected heading of our TADs. We don't have one at the moment, but I'll try and remember to show that off. And finally, a short press of the right will either fly to the direct to queue, if we have one, which we don't have one selected, or it will follow the route sequence. That's a summary of how to ask George to fly the aircraft for us. Now, as a player, we're going to show how to employ weapons from the front seat. So, very roughly explained, left MFD, middle MFD, right MFD, left hand grip, if you can see that hopefully, right hand grip. First thing we're going to do is press TADS on right hand grips, sight select switch TADS, or this control here, as we saw earlier. So, ping. Now, the interesting thing about this is it's brought up current FLIR image on our IHADs, on our eyepiece. Some people will love this. I'm sure lots of you will love this. We find it really annoying. So what we're going to do is press I, the I key, just to get rid of our IHADs temporarily. Next, we're going to do master arm, ping. Next, it's going to be the weapon armament switch WAS for the gun. Let me just show that. Left hand grip, weapons action switch WAS G, gun. Let's press that. In the middle screen, you can see there it says rounds 300. That's the amount of rounds for the gun, and that's how we can also prove that we have the gun selected. Also, if we go to weapon here, more functions of the gun, and I'm just going to change the burst limit. Next, we are going to use our middle screen here. We can use a space stabilized aiming reticle here, and we're controlling that with right hand grip, manual tracker, switch up, down, left and right, or the axis equivalent of it. Move it round. Then we can use the zoom commands, narrow, zoom, medium or wide. Play with them until you get the kind of zoom that you're looking for. I think that one's the one for me. What do I want to shoot? So we can hit one of these lampposts, that'd be quite fun. Then we'll need to laser range. There are two laser range commands. Either right hand grip, trigger first detent, or second detent. Can you try and describe the difference between first detent and second detent, please, RC, for the laser?
So first detent gives you a quick laser range, flashes the laser on and then off again, and then second detent will, as long as you hold the second detent, the laser will stay on.
Right, okay, and you can see the distance there in feet, so let's just try somewhere over there. I'm just doing the first detent. See, it updates the range. That's it. I'm just going to pull the trigger. Left hand grip, weapons trigger, first detent. To fire the gun, and hopefully there's going to be some time, obviously, for the shell's impact. Range again while we're waiting. And this is just doing it live as well, bearing in mind that we're not paused at the moment, so the George in the rear is keeping the helicopter as stable as he can, and the space stabilized reticle is keeping us nice and stable. Okay, that just leaves us with firing a Maverick from a similar system, and it's not going to be too different. So what we're going to do...
You are not firing a Maverick.
Yes, Roger. I've also I laughed because I just caught fire of the fence. I just found that funny. It's not a Maverick, RC. Don't call it a Maverick. It's a Hellfire. Hellfire. Right, I'm going to change my level of zoom. There we go, like that. I'm going to move us over to here. Just going to find ourselves a lovely juicy target.
You'd be best to go to TV.
Right, and that's because I'm in FLIR as standard, yes?
Yeah.
Okay, so
which it shows on the screen. It says FLIR.
Yeah, so we can go from FLIR to TV. Okay, why do you prefer TV, RC?
Well, during the day, the TV, I find that it's a better contrast to find targets. You can also switch between white and black hot, but during the day I like TV better.
Roger. Alright, I've got a nice little baddie selected here. Next, I need to select the missile through the WAS, which is that there. So let's select the missile. Ping. See if we get this little box appear. I'm going to need to laser range. I'm going to need to this time laser range with the second detent and press and hold it to keep it on. Like that. This box appears.
That's your constraints box. That means your missiles are in the right configuration and direction to be able to fire a successful shot if it's installed. If it's and it's basically a representation of the seeker. If it's dashed, it means you're out of constraints and will not have not be able to fire.
While pressing and holding the second laser detent, we're going to press obviously the trigger at that point, the same trigger we used to fire the gun. Push and hold until the missile leaves the aircraft. Off he toots, and I'm on the target. For some reason in my aircraft I get a bit of drift. The reticle can drift a bit. I've never figured out why that is, but obviously we're still learning it ourselves. Boom! Dropped it out. Remove the lays. Simply find another guy here. Press and hold lays. Press and hold trigger. Off he goes. So you could just you just ripple off 16 missiles if you want there. Make sure you don't leg over the lays while the missile needs the lays, so make sure you've got this lays being done all the time until it hits. And of course you can fire on a third-party laser. Does it have to be from Apache, I'll say, or could it be from any aircraft?
No, it could be from anything, as long as the PRF matches. Okay,
well that will be covered, I think, a little bit more down the line then.
The only thing I would say is that if you're running with multiple Apaches, everybody needs to change their laser codes.
So to reiterate, this is just a dummies guide to get you up and started, and the absolute minimum requirement that we think you need, and you could expand further from there. Anything you want to add, RC?
No.
The main Grim Reapers videos are now being split between this YouTube channel and the Grim Reapers 2 YouTube channel. So if you want to see all of the Grim Reapers videos, please consider subscribing to both channels. And thank you for watching.